What's going on, traders? Welcome back to the channel. I appreciate you stopping by, spending a few minutes of your time here with me tonight. As you can tell, I'm a little sick. I'm sure you can hear it in my voice, but that's besides the point, bruh. I wanted to talk to y'all a little bit about your trading psychology, all right, and how to improve your trading psychology. So, if you've ever heard of Mark Douglas, right, he's written a few great books on trading. He also has some really well-spoken seminars on YouTube, okay? Mark Douglas calls things like overtrading, revenge trading, FOMO, over-leveraging, stuff like this. He calls these trading errors, okay? These trading errors, these are the same things that Stacy calls degenerate, gambling, self-sabotaging behavior, okay? Now, there's a reason why Stacy's always hammering home this point of using a simple daily process to identify potential trade setups, okay? When we stick to that simple daily process, we're able to make adjustments and avoid certain trading errors, okay? But no trader is perfect. No human being is perfect. We are all going to make trading errors, right? I'm not trying to make it sound like I'm some type of guru and I don't make trading errors, okay? I definitely do have my moments, you know what I'm saying? But I've been working on it, and we know it's all about progress, not perfection, okay? Now, in my opinion, 90% of the trading errors that we make when we sit down at our screens are emotional, okay? They're rooted in unregulated emotional states, okay? When you think about something like FOMO, fear of missing out, fear is an emotion, right? And so when we start experiencing the fear of missing out, right? We come to our screens, we're looking at the DJ30, we see the train's already left the station. And we might get these thoughts in our head that says, dang it, man, I missed the trade. I missed the setup. What the heck, I missed it again. That is an emotional response to what you're seeing on your chart, right? And as a result of that, a lot of people just try to get in. They're like, look, it's going up. You know, it's got a lot of momentum. If I just get in right here, it should keep on going up, right? And so they FOMO into a bad position, right? So that's an example of how these trading errors are emotional in nature, okay? So we ask ourselves all sorts of questions when this thing happens. When we catch ourselves revenge trading or over trading and stuff like this, we ask ourselves all types of different questions. But we would be better off just nipping this right in the bud, going right to the source and pulling it out by the root, okay? And the root of all of this stuff is self-talk, okay? And a lack of self-control. And it's not your fault. It's not my fault. It just is what it is. We have to train ourselves to think a different way, a healthy way, and a helpful and beneficial way, all right? So, and this doesn't only apply to trading the markets, right? This is, in general, about life, all right? This will help you out in your trading. It will also help you out in your life, with your relationships, with other people, so on and so forth, okay? But when we find ourselves in this emotional state, because our emotions, oftentimes, we lose control over ourselves, okay? And anytime you're not in control, it's not going to turn out good for you, right? So anytime we get emotional about something, or we find ourselves having an intense emotional reaction to whatever it is, the way that we combat that, the way that we pull it out from the root is by challenging those emotional thought processes with logical thought processes, okay? So let's go back to the example of FOMO, the fear of missing out, right? So you get to your screens, you see that the train's already left the station, and in your mind, right, here comes the emotional thoughts. Man, I missed the trade. I missed the setup again. You know, if I would have got in there, or if I would have been at my charts, I would have saw that. All of this fear of missing out. Normally, maybe you would just go ahead and push the buttons and enter the market, right? But hopefully, if you can utilize this tip I'm going to share with you right here, you can take control of yourself or regain control of yourself before you start pushing the buttons, right? So you need to attack that irrational, emotional, FOMO thought process with logical thought processes. And I'll give you an example of how to do that, right? So, you know, whatever, you're experiencing those emotions, but now, instead of pushing the buttons, you're going to remind yourself of certain logical truths about life and about trading, okay? So for example, this is a big world, right? We live in a big world and there's a lot to do. There's actually too much to do. And you, being an individual who cannot split themselves or clone themselves and be in more than one place at one time, without a doubt, inevitably, you are going to miss out on more things in life than you're able to actually do. And the same is true about the market, right? You are, over the course of your entire trading career, going to miss more trades than you take, okay? You understand? You're not a robot. You can't monitor the market 24/7, right? You can't monitor every single pair that there is out there. So inevitably, you are going to miss trades. You understand what I'm saying? So that's a logical argument. What happens when you get all emotional, it's like you weren't centered. Then you have these emotional thoughts and you start to drift out here into left field, okay? Then when you attack those emotional thought processes with logical thought processes, it slowly pulls you back into that center, right? You understand what I'm saying? A lot of us believe, at least in the beginning, that trading is a get-rich-quick type of thing. We think that we are going to come into the market, make a boatload of money immediately, right? And just be printing money from here to the end of days, okay? But that's not really how trading works, okay? But because we think that, that oftentimes leads us to over trading and over leveraging, okay? And it leads us into that place of FOMO, right? So, you know, no one likes to trade and only make $2 or $5 in a day or something like that, right? But we have to remind ourselves, logically speaking, that trading just doesn't work like this. In fact, not a lot in life actually works like this. We are just obsessed with like instant gratification, okay? So we have to remind ourselves, logically speaking, right, that trading is a slow grind. Trading is a marathon, not a sprint, not a race. It's not a get-rich-quick scheme, okay? It's not. We want to compound our account in a safe manner, comfortably and consistently, all right? So a logical argument for this is like, I explained it to you a little bit in the other video, right? I went to barber school and I hyped myself up the entire time I was in barber school. And I thought that as soon as I graduated and got my license, I would get a job as a barber and start making $60,000 to $100,000 a year, right? But it just doesn't work like that. Not only do I not have a clientele, but my skills are not where they need to be able to bring in all of that money, right? I could get there one day, but it's not gonna be tomorrow. It's not gonna be next week, right? It might take me 5 years to get to this point where I have a stacked clientele where I'm booked from the hour I come in the shop to the hour I leave the shop, right? It might take me 5 years to get that 10,000 hours on my clippers and master my craft, right? Or at least become so skilled that I don't have any questions, that I can just do whatever haircut comes in. Okay, so it's going to take me some time. And I'm sure that you guys have situations in your life that you can relate to. Anything that you start, whether it's a video game, you know what I'm saying, or you're working fast food, or you're a new lawyer at a firm or something like that. A lot of the times when you break into a new industry, you're starting at the bottom or near the bottom, and you have to work your way up. So why would trading be any different? You see, and that's a logical argument that you can present to yourself when you're having these intense emotional reactions to what you're seeing on your screen, okay? So that's essentially what I wanted to talk to you guys about. We can combat our unregulated, uncontrollable emotions by offering logical arguments, okay? To bring ourselves back into that centered, still place of control. You understand? You get what I'm saying? A lot of us think that we're going to have some aha moment. And after that moment, we'll have it all figured out. It's going to be smooth sailing. We'll just be printing money. You know what I'm saying? But that's not how we achieve consistency or success in trading. It doesn't come from a single aha moment. Instead, progress is truly made when you wake up, you show up, and you put your best foot forward, and you do what you know works. You do what you know you should be doing, even if it's boring, even if it's slow. You do it because we know it's about progress, not perfection. That's why Stacy's always telling us 1% better every day, right? Does that make sense? We show up. It's all of the little things, bro. Like if you're working out, you want to get fit, you want to get big, right? You're not going to go to the gym for a week and then be big as hell, right? You got to show up day in, day out, and commit to a routine that is often painful, inconvenient sometimes, but you still have to do it. So just showing up, putting in the work, and committing yourself to the small things every day, those small things add up. That's how we get better. You understand? It's the same thing with barbering. Sometimes I want to just give up. At least in the past, I've had days that were so rough, I just wanted to walk out of that shop and never return. But that's an emotional response, right? I get all wrapped up in my emotions, beat myself up to the point where I just want to leave. And I have to remind myself, Rome wasn't built in a day. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the times our progress is hard earned. So I have to remind myself of this. Bro, what were you expecting? Were you expecting to be the best barber in the world in a single year? You know what I'm saying? Of course not. So all we have to do is keep showing up, keep doing the haircuts, and we will improve, right? Anyway, man, I hope that you guys are having a great night. I hope you're ready for this week. Remember, going into this new week, all you need to do is mark off last week's high and last week's low and project it onto the new week, and then don't touch anything until price gets to one of those levels. Then you're going to check for a signal day. Whether you use the daily chart, use a 15-minute chart, you're going to check for a signal day, a potential 3-day setup or whatever. Then, of course, we're going to be using timings, levels, behavior, price to see what happens when price makes it to those levels, right? Anyway, man, until next time, I hope you continue to free your mind.